All right. So here we go. We are live. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tony King. I am the designated broker for eXp Realty. I have that distinguished honor, but even more distinguished is my special guest today. Welcome to this Wednesday Wisdom Series. This is a brand new podcast that we're doing where I can hand select the absolute best talent across the entire real estate universe, really. And I was able to get a hold of Mr. Jay Kinder. Let me not I guess dismantle your incredible list of accomplishments. I'd rather have you say it, have you talk about yourself a little bit and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll give you the short version, and I always hate doing this because there's so much more to be learned from the valleys and the before the peaks and after the peaks and all the things that work. But yeah, I've been in the business now. This is my 25th year in real estate. Made a name for myself in a small town in Lawton, Oklahoma. I was selling 500 plus homes a year. I was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker. Did that for a number of years before going independent, before ultimately moving over to EXP. And in 2006, started a coaching and training organization. I had a buddy of mine, Michael Reese, who got into real estate at the time. I was selling a couple hundred homes a year, and he started asking me questions about, hey man, what did you do, to get where you're at? And I was like, man, I don't know. I did a lot of things that didn't work, and I don't know, a handful of things must have worked. And so it was like kind of a hard question to answer because there's so many things that you try to do that work and so many things that don't work. But because Mike was brand new, he started from scratch. And so I was like, dude, you need to get this website. I'm generating like 300 leads a month from it. You need to have that. So like, even before he had his license, he had 300 leads a month coming in, and he started with the right things in the right order. And as days would go on, I'd be like, no, don't do this. That didn't work. No, definitely don't spend money there. Don't do that. That's not going to work. Try this. And, hire this person, not that. And this, and the other. So, Mike built his business to over $1 million in GCI in 3 years. Under 3 years. And it was fascinating to me because it took me 6 years to do. I was like, dude, that's amazing. But we became really fascinated with like, why do agents struggle so much to figure out how to be successful in real estate? I think there's a lot of noise out there, probably more noise today than there was even back when I was doing, getting started and whatnot. But so we helped other agents, and we've, coached some of the top agents in the country, have come through our camp at some phase or another. Usually they come to us, usually they were doing 20 or 30 or 40 transactions. They were trying to really grow their business. And so we helped them with, building a brand, and ultimately, which I know that this is the topic of the month. So I'm glad I'm on for this, because this has been my whole career's philosophy, was we helped them to build a brand and become the dominant listing agent in their marketplace. That's what we did. That's what worked for us. It bears a lot of fruit to build a business around when you become the most known agent in a particular niche, marketplace, neighborhood, whatever it may be. And, at one point I had, almost 14% market share of the market that I was in. And so, certainly when the phone's ringing off the hook with people saying, hey, I want to do business. Hey, I want to do business. Hey, I want to do business. That's a completely different animal than the way I got started. It was, cold, mind-numbing cold calls, expires FSBO, call, open house every weekend. And, that's a heck of a grind, but there's a switch that happens when you really start to understand marketing and learn, how to do the right things in the right order to attract business to you as opposed to just chasing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with chasing business, but it's a lot easier when they come to you pre-sold to do business with you. So that's what we help people do. We've done that for a number of years and been fortunate to work with some of the top people. Now, some of the top people in the industry have come through our camp. So what we did works, and we are just passionate about helping people that are hungry, humble, and want to do more.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. And what I love most about you, Jay, or there's lots to love, but one of the things I love most about you is the fact that you don't mind pouring into other people. You don't mind lifting up the hood and showing your engine, right, and showing what's been driving your incredible amount of success
Right.
before EXP, at EXP, and beyond, right? So let's do a little bit of that. And first off, my first question I always want to start with, and I had the incredible opportunity to also meet with you, hang out a little bit at the Build conference with Tony Robbins. One of the things Tony mentioned was the fact that the brain waves, right? And he kind of went through how similar the brain waves are between being grateful for something as well as kind of that attraction piece and getting what it is that you want out of life, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to know, what are you most grateful for right now in business?
EXP. I'm super grateful. I'm grateful for the journey I've been on, right? And so like there's, when I say I'm grateful for EXP, I'm grateful to find a business model that allows me to do what I love and not have to ask for a credit card in return. I think that's pretty cool. Getting to help agents and support agents and get compensated based upon their success, not on you being running your credit card, not having to do webinars and sell you into coaching and training. And to a certain extent, I don't want to discount this, because I do believe that when there's skin in the game and people are making an investment, they listen twice as hard. So there is value in making investments. And I've done that my whole career. Like, I paid anybody and everybody. There's nobody I haven't paid. Like, everybody got my money. And it's because I learned earlier on, I wasn't the smartest kid in class, but I always tried to learn, like, all right, who's the best in the world at what I'm trying to do here? And how do I learn what they know that I don't? And that always worked for me. So I was always, willing to make the investment, willing to get in those rooms. But EXP's just become a platform for us where we do all these things now, and you don't have to make that huge investments that some of us had to make, risking, trying to put things on 2 credit cards to make sure it goes through, that kind of thing. And so just having a community and being able to be around, be in the business of adding value to agents' lives and do that without having the need for financial compensation is a blessing. So that's certainly what I'm most grateful for today. And it's given me a lot of freedom, a lot of time freedom, and the ability to make a bigger impact on more people's lives while doing it.
That's great. That's great. And I want to circle back to something that you mentioned a little earlier on how you got started, and you were picking up the phone, right, and calling for sale by owners, and it just kind of pounding the phones, pounding the pavement, and then you were able to kind of shift that into a more sustainable business model. We're headed for tough times. Actually, some might say we're in tough times already, if not headed that way. So, what guidance would you have, having kind of lived on both sides of this thing? For a brand new agent, and you've got a huge team as well, right? And they're still doing business. What are you teaching your team right now as we head into this recession, depression, whatever they're going to call it? I can't imagine, I remember going through the first 6 or 7 years, actually more like 8 or 9 years of my business, where it was just this, right? And it never, I never had a down year, and then 07 and 08 hit, and it was. You couldn't have taught me you couldn't have taught me lessons bought or lessons taught. All right. So I had to go through some of the downside in order to learn where the holes were in my business. Everything looks great when the tide's up, but when the tide rolls out, you can always see you skinny dipping. And you just learn a lot during those times. And so, I actually am excited about the marketplace, kind of making this shift. There's people that have been in the business for 10 years and haven't ever had to do a price reduction. That's right. That's not, something I've ever experienced. Like even in the good times in my market, where I was from, it was average days on the market was 100, 4 months roughly on average. And so there's when the market shifts and the thing you have to understand, and this is where I believe that the agents need to be focused on. There's the effort that you can put in, and this is the way we were all trained. We were all trained. Hey, listen, man, it's time to buckle down, hit the phones, call twice as much, and hit twice hard. The problem with that is it's kind of erratic, right? You'll make your call some days, and some days you don't. And you're only as motivated as the last motivational talk you got, and then you make those calls some more, and then you get beat up some more, and you're like, okay, there's got to be a better way, right? And so, like, I've always found myself asking that question, man, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And while I do believe, and I will always believe, and I will tell you that the most successful people that I've ever coached, and I've coached a lot of super successful people, and people that became super successful from nothing, much as I did, and they all had made the calls at one point. They learned the high level of selling skill that you can only learn by making the calls. You can only learn by, talking to, when you're calling FSBOs and expireds and you're getting hung up on, and you learn that, hey, there's a skill for me to get through this process, get face-to-face and actually win that business. It makes it to where when you do spend money in marketing and you do start to try to attract business in other ways, that you're more likely to going to be successful if you're competing against another agent and some of the things that you run into when it's not just referral business. And so most of the agents that are probably scared right now, and rightfully so, if your business was coming from repeat business, referral business, sphere of influence, and it's not very predictable, but it's been there for you. And that starts to slow down a little bit, or some of the marketing things you may have been doing that were working are not working anymore. And so those are those are the agents I feel like that are kind of like deer in the headlights right now, going, okay, now what do I do? And I believe that
the transition you have to make is to understanding marketing and understanding what is going on in the consumer's mind. There are going to be sales in your marketplace. I don't care what the interest rates are. There's been years before my time that it was 14%, 18%. People still bought real estate. There will always be sales in your marketplace. They're happening. How are people getting to those people? How are you finding the motivated sellers, the motivated buyers, people that have to do something, that don't necessarily maybe always want to, but they absolutely need to make a move? And so, that's, and in order to do that, you kind of got to get in the mindset of understanding what are the conversations happening right now around the dinner table. I know the conversations I'm having with my buddies, and not so much at the dinner table with the family, but if you're thinking about making a real estate move, buying or selling, that is happening at the table. Are interest rates going to go up? Are they going to continue to go up? Is the market going to crash? Should we sell now? Should we wait? What should we do? And so when you start to understand what's going on in the consumer's mind, you can start to craft messaging and marketing and content around how to engage with and get an opportunity to earn that business, as opposed to things that worked, like do a home evaluation ad. Well, that's great. You can, those worked for years. It's going to inherently be the thing that every seller wants to know is what their house is worth. But it was, it was a whole bunch of leads. Many of them didn't want to sell. They just want to know what their house is worth, and they're not highly qualified. So you start thinking about messaging and specifically marketing. If you're spending money and trying to get in front of consumers, who's your target? Who's the target market that you're going after? What is the big problem or the big opportunity that they have? And what's the the conversation going around the dinner table? Are they highly motivated or not? And how do I focus in on spending my time trying to talk to people that are highly motivated today and need to do something, as opposed to they're going to sit on the fence and not do anything because they don't have to. So that's a transition. I think that becoming a great marketer is always, I've always said, and my business partner Mike has always said, it's not the greatest real estate agent that wins, it's the best marketer. And this is the time where learning the skill of marketing is going to be extremely valuable for you, because you really don't have waste. And we make all these big commissions, 10 grand or 8 grand or 9 grand, whatever your marketplace is, and you can buy this and buy that and this and that, and if that stuff doesn't work, you can't afford to do those things anymore. You got to find things that work and be diligent about spending marketing dollars, return on investment, understanding your cash conversion cycle. How long is it going to take for me to break even on this investment, and become a better business person and a better marketer to succeed in a market like this.
Yeah. So, and you bring up a great point about marketing, but I want to come back to your last point. So many great stuff in there. I got to unpack it all. So, firstly, what I like you to, what I'm hearing is treating it like a business, right? Because for so long, it's just been, people coming in the door, raising their hand. I'm ready to buy. I'm ready to buy. Oh my gosh. Now there's low inventory and it's a high demand. So, it was a situation where it was almost an ideal market for anybody to come in and make money in real estate. But now what we're starting to see, and I think I'm getting what you're putting down, is that as we head into this new market, it's going to be about people that are treating this like a business, right? And are paying attention to the sales cycle, paying attention to the marketing costs, tightening the belt where it needs to be tightened in terms of the offices, or in terms of long-term leases or any kind of long-term agreements. That's one of the things that I'm as I'm talking to some of the top team managers here in Texas, and saying, hey, listen, you need to look at every single expense and renegotiate. And our broker team has been working on that for the last probably 6 months, because we kind of saw this thing coming, and saying, hey, you need to be renegotiating right now everything. You need to renegotiate your leads right now. You need to renegotiate your leases right now if you have an office lease, and you need to take a look at all these expenses. And in some cases, at some brokerages, it's looking at, hey, is there a better option? Is there a better model that could even power me forward and help me get rid of some of this stuff? So and then I want to go back too, because one of the things that you talked about is marketing and how important marketing is, and the first part of that is identifying a target market. So Jay, where are the honey holes right now? Right, where are you pointing your team to and saying, hey, these are the honey holes that are always going to be effective in any kind of market? These are the dinner table conversations, as you call it, that are always happening. And to your point, people are always buying and selling. It's just a matter of who, finding them and getting a message in front of them. So let's start with the.
So I'll start with the kind of the most kind of universal. First of all, I'll say there's going to be more FSBOs. There's going to be more expires. That is the only free seller lead generation leads that I'm aware of. Right. So like if you're on a zero budget and you got a phone and you're willing to hustle, you can call Fizzbles and Expireds and make $500,000 a year in your marketplace. I don't care what marketplace it is if you do it, because you can tell me every other agent in the market is doing it. I'm telling you, if you just do it, you'll make the money. I've seen it happen, and one of the benefits of not just like looking under the hood of what I've done, but like I've looked under the hoods of thousands of agents' businesses, and like those two pillars, and they're pillars, right? Like there's something that you want oil wells in your business. Like if that's producing 3 deals a month, that's roughly $30,000 a month. Let's say on an average commission, 3% of 300,000, it's $27,000 a month. So if you have $27,000 a month oil well built in your business, which is just Fizzles and Expireds, now you have the ability to do some other things, right? And invest in some other marketing. And so where I see things that don't work. So like, when I say target market, it's all about, marketing is a couple of things, right? It's target market message to the marketplace, and what media are you going to use to deliver that? And then there's reach and frequency. And so in every marketing, campaign you may have, there's reach, which is how many people see the message. And then, and then there's segmentation. How many different ways, we call it the force multiplier. Are you hitting with, email, text, direct mail, phone call, all of these different ways that you can have maximum impact on the target. And so building efficient communication that's relevant to a particular segment of the market becomes really important, because you can't afford to waste leads that, you only call one time. You need to come at them from every possible angle. So we call it a deep, not wide strategy. So like, you don't just want to make calls one time. Like I used to get direct mail pieces all the time when I lived in Texas. And I would get this one postcard, and it's a complete waste of money. I mean, like I've done it. I know it doesn't work. And I'll walk at the mail, and I'd have this postcard from this agent I've never heard of before, never seen before. And they sold a house somewhere in that county. I don't even know where. So it wasn't even probably relevant to me half the time. And they were like, oh, look at this property that I wouldn't even remember for the next podcast I was going to be on to make fun of how bad of a marketing idea that is, because I didn't even.
Oh no, Jay, you're freezing up.
Deliver me a sign, right? Like if I was walking down the driveway, and that's basically what you're hoping for. If you box that God would show me the way, right? And then I open the mailbox and this agent sends me a postcard. I'm like, that must be the sign. Thank you, God. That's not going to happen. A lot of people do it. It's not. I'll keep going because the clock is still ticking. You there, Tony?
Yep.
I think I'm still good.
Yeah. So you're freezing up. But we got you.
Yeah,
so,
is it me? Okay. Yeah. So the Puerto Rico internet is questionable.
Well, to be fair, y'all just had a hurricane, so I get it.
It's
all right. We appreciate you hopping on here.
Yeah.
So to kind of paraphrase at least what I'm picking up every few words here, and that is deep over wide, right? And making sure that you're hitting people 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, right? And not just kind of blasting an email out to an entire neighborhood because it's a complete waste of money, right? Whereas if you're hitting specific people a specific number of times and over again, and becoming the number one person in that person's mind when they think about selling, or when they're ready, that's more of the strategy. Is that along the lines of what you're talking? Oh no.
All right, I should be back. Am I back?
You're back.
All right, good. Yeah, so there's two problems we have in Puerto Rico. One is the internet is just sketchy. It does usually work, but it usually just like glitches it on, and everything has to reset.
So I think you're back.
All right. All right. So let
So I'll tell you what.
Jay, and so I stopped. But if I do something today, if I was going to do a direct mail piece, or if I was going to, and the medium is just the delivery vehicle, right? It could be Facebook, it could be any number of different platforms you could use for that. There's, direct mail, there's radio, there's television, there's a million different medias you could deliver something. So direct mail even. So, but if I was going to deliver a message, say I might send out something that says, the top 5 things you need to know before you decide to sell your home, or is now the time to sell, or should you wait?
Yeah.
Right. And so like something that's kind of entering the conversation of what they're already thinking. Like if the dinner conversation is, honey, should we sell? We got all this equity. We could sell now. We could move out to where we wanted to go, and that whatever that conversation is, that's where you want to enter the conversation. And so if you just send somebody a just sold postcard, that's great. They see that, they don't think, but if you send a postcard that says, the top 3 things you should know if you're thinking of selling your home in 2022, before the end of 2022, you're entering into the conversation where they're at, and that is going to generate a much, much higher response. You're talking 300 to 500% higher response rate or more, just because you're understanding who you're targeting. And I'm not saying targeting by, hey, how big is the house? What neighborhood is it in? I'm saying the situation that they're in, right? Does that make sense? And so that's going to get a much higher response. And so just understanding marketing in that way, message to market match, and then the different ways you can deliver that. You could deliver that in content on Instagram. You could deliver that in content on, through a Facebook ad that drives them to a page with a download. You could deliver that in an actual mailer that you mail out. You could go online to offline, and then offline back to online. You could drive someone offline. What I mean by that is you could send a postcard to someone, drive them online to download a free report, and then they become a lead for you. And so like that, so if you're going to send that out to an entire neighborhood, that's probably going to get a much greater response rate, people that go and fill out the form because you have something of value. If you said, hey, if you're thinking of selling, you should call me or get a free home evaluation, that might not be the best message in today's market, because it's too generic. And it's not going to be targeted to, it's not targeted enough to go where they go, stop what they're doing, and they go, hold on a minute, this is exactly what I need to know, right? And so that's what I mean by understanding message to market match, and understanding what, who your target customer is, what they're going through, really understanding the conversation that's going on at the dinner table, and crafting your market messages around that, and then delivering value ahead of time before they ever decide to choose you as their agent. And that's going to, now we're going to go deep. Now if they download that free report, I'm going to send them a direct mail package of all, the reasons why they should hire me. I'm going to invest in spending $10 to send a really nice package to them at their house, as opposed to, I wouldn't just send that out to every person in the neighborhood. But now that I know that you're interested, now I'm going to invest deeper, right? That's the deep, not wide strategy, not spray and pray, but going deeper with a particular lead. So that's the, hopefully that gives some context to the ideology, at least around marketing.
No, that's huge. That's huge, Jay. And I think that, one of the things that I heard you mention before on one of your presentations that you gave in the past was, you subscribe to Jay Abraham and a lot of these other just marketing gurus, right? That are just marketing beasts. And I hear a lot of stuff you're talking, with the chunky direct mail and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I'm right very much in that same boat. I did the exact
same
thing, and sending dollar letters and penny letters and stuff,
yep.
and send them $1 in the mail.
So
just different things that in this new market we're going to have to get back to being creative and actually generating a buzz for yourself and to grow your business. Be intentional about it, right? Because the days of laying in the street with your mouth open, kind of waiting for the rain,
right.
that's over. That's over.
Yeah.
So I was listening to another chat that you gave in the past, and one of the things you mentioned was scripts, right? And I thought that it was absolutely profound. So can you unpack how important it is to follow a script versus your version of a script?
Yeah. Now I know what you listen to.
There you go.
And so I'm going to tell 2 parts. I want to answer that the way I initially thought I should answer that, and then I'll tell the story about how I learned a valuable lesson early on with the script and not following it. The first thing, and this is super important. And so this was like one of the hardest things that we had to try to solve for the masses was what is your value proposition, right? So like, why should somebody do business with you above doing business with anyone else or doing nothing at all? And I find that most real estate agents struggle with, if a seller asks that question, you got like less than 2 seconds to be able to answer that, and you better have an answer. And that could be a script, but it really what you need to have is a value proposition. What is the reason why? And so for us, what we developed through NAEA and the training and the stuff that we created over the years was we have a proven, repeatable system backed by market research to sell homes for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. Would you like for me to show you how we do that? That one thing, if you can just get the marbles out of your mouth to say that one thing, at least you have a reason why someone should listen to what you have to say. There's, you need to back that up and be able to support, the promise you're making. Uber important, but that is a value proposition. And so, there should always be a reason why, and create a defining gap why somebody should do business with you above doing business with somebody else. And so, because unfortunately, and people don't know how great you are until they actually experience it. So we have to learn how to build trust through marketing and get them to believe that we're going to be best for them through understanding marketing. There's a great book that we follow, Dan Kennedy's Trust-Based Marketing. Read it. It's great. It's phenomenal. Everything we've ever done has been based on that. But it's awesome. Great stuff. But to answer your question around scripts, there are scripts that are proven to work. And I paid one of the coaches, many coaches that I had, and I remember I had a coach every week, and I had this little script pinned up on the wall, and I was making calls. And I told him, I said, like many agents have probably said, you may have said this is an agent at some point if you're watching this. Right. I said, the script isn't working, man. And so he made me actually record my calls, and then we listened to them together. And so I obviously was following the script when I recorded it. Why would I not do that? At least I thought I did. And so we go through the script. He said, listen to it. I said, see, I told you I followed the script. He said, no, you didn't. He said, listen again. And so I listened again. I was like, yeah, I guess I did change that up a little bit, didn't I? And he said, go back and follow the script exactly, and don't change it up. And then let's talk again next week. And I was like, yeah, all right, whatever, I'll do it. But I don't really believe that is going to make a difference. And I was blown away. I started setting appointments with the script like right away. I changed up just enough of the context that it wasn't working. And there was some reasons in psychology and a lot of things I did not know at the time as the reason why that was going to mess it up. And so, we don't know what we don't know. And until you get educated, you don't sometimes understand the principles behind why something works. So unless you have that high level education and success that you're at, then you should just be very coachable is what I would tell you. And that's what I learned was, I could just miss the whole boat and think that this doesn't work just because I wasn't coachable and I wasn't following the script that was given to me that was already proven to work. And so it was a real good lesson for me, early on, was this being coachable, but like really being coachable, like understanding that if this works for other people, it will work for me, and let me do it exactly how you told me first. And then if I want to iterate on it and make it better and make it my own, then I can do that. But don't go changing things up. If you pay a lot of money to learn something, you should probably, pay more attention.
Yeah. And once I see the success that you're seeing, then I can try to make it my own or put my own flair on it or my own twist on it, because at that point, enough. But in many cases, when you get there, you know enough to not mess with it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. If it's working, there's really no reason for me to try to improve on it either. Right. Like, that's part of the entrepreneur in us, where we start to change things. And then we go, it's not working anymore. I'm like, okay, well, let's go back to doing what it was when it was working. And so yeah, just being a good student, I think is super important. And there's right things to say and wrong things to say on the phone that will get you there. It's just like, in marketing, Jay Abraham teaches, 80% of your result is in your headline. Well, your headline is also the first words you open your mouth at an open house, the first thing you say when you take a phone call from a lead. And so knowing exactly what to say to move that conversation along is a critical importance in this business. It's a skill that really has to be, beat on consistently so that it's internal, right? Like, I know exactly what to say. I've been on thousands of appointments. Like, it's second nature to me. Like, I don't have to think. I actually have done it enough times, and repetition is the mother of all skills, Tony Robbins teaches. And that's, you get the role playing and you're learning, or you're making these calls, and you will get better. But that's a skill that, I was talking to a guy yesterday. He was moving from Orange County to I think Huntington or somewhere, Huntsville, maybe Alabama or something like that. Completely different market. But he has, he was trained, Mike Ferry trained on scripts. I've been through Ferry stuff. It's good. he takes that skill set with him. He makes calls in whatever market he's in, and he's going to be able to be successful because he's highly skilled in one of the most valuable skills you can have, which is in sales. And so very important.
So can you unpack maybe some of the vernacular, some of the language that you use that kind of just comes naturally for someone that maybe struggles with sales? You've got them in your back pocket that kind of roll off. But and I'm so impressed as well by some of the books that you're throwing out, which are great. You took Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham and these guys, Tony Robbins. So I'm going to come back to that as well.
Yeah.
I want to kind of find out which of these books, which of these speakers, which of these coaches that you've kind of worked with have had the biggest impact and kind of help our agents in that regard.
Sure.
But let's go back to the first question. What are some of the I guess different language tips and tricks that you utilize on a sales call?
The easiest thing that you can learn, the thing that comes to mind as the example for this is like expireds, right? Like you can get beat up real quick. And I used to, first of all, I was treated as a game. To me, I wasn't offended. If you didn't like it, didn't want to talk to me, hang up on me, I just call you back and be like, hey, we got disconnected, and just make a game of it. So like I never did get offended by it. And one of the things that I learned in dealing with an expired is like, they're always pissed off and be like, hey man, I'm looking at your house. Looks like a great house. I'm really surprised it didn't sell. Why do you think it didn't sell? And just asking that one question. And then they'll say, well, it's the market or the agent, or they'll say whatever. So like, well, there's been a lot of houses that have sold that were similar. Let me ask you this. If you did sell, where were you going to go? And then they start telling me their story. Like the reason they went, and I remember this one guy in Elgin, Oklahoma, I'll never forget it. He told me it was the market. And I was like, man, I sold 13 houses in that area since he put the house on the market, 6 months ago. So it ain't that. And I didn't say that but I knew the market. And I was like, that's not the reason this house didn't sell. It's overpriced, but that's, it's not the market. And I said, well, why did you want to sell in the first place? He said, man, my buddy's retired, and he sends me videos every day of him fishing off the bank of the Tennessee River. And he's like, I can't wait to wake up, have a cup of coffee and, go fishing off the bank of it. And now I've got a good reason to now I can start to have a different conversation, right? I'm not just there trying to list your house. I'm like, let me ask you this. If I could still get you to Tennessee and you could be fishing off the back porch by December, whatever month it was at the time, I said, would you still be open to selling if it was a price you were willing to accept? And which again, that's a question there's only one answer to that, right? It's the answer is always if it was a price you were willing to accept. Well, you can't. Well, not at a lower price. I didn't say that. Not at your full price. I didn't say that. I said at a price you were willing to accept. Well, if it was you were willing to accept it would be a price you would be willing to accept. So the only answer is yes, right? So like I'm trying to get a yes out of him. He said he's going to say yes. So he says yes. I said, well, when can I stop by and take a look at it? I just want to take a look at it. And if I can offer any advice, I will. I'm happy to. And if I think I can help you, I'll tell you I can help you. If I don't think I can, but it sounds to me like, you just weren't properly advised. And if I could give you some advice that might help, I'd love to do it. And so he set the appointment. I went out and listed the property. And so, there's, when you just let people talk and tell you what it is they're trying to do, you have to, you really just have to be, what Jay Abraham used to always say is like, to be interesting, you have to be interested, and you have to be genuinely interested in like, well, hey man, what are you trying to do? Why is that important? What are you going to do if that doesn't work? Then what are you going to do? Like really trying to understand what people's motivation are, why they're trying to do something so that you can advise them properly, right? Like this, we're in the business of advising at the highest level on the largest investment most people make in their lifetime. You owe it to them to have the skill to be able to understand their goals and their dreams and why. And more important, what happens if they don't? Like my market in Oklahoma, if you didn't sell your house, it became a rental property, and they all had horror stories about, leaving lot in Fort Sill and leaving a rental property behind that didn't stay rented or went into foreclosure. And so like really, truly understanding, and then telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Nobody wants to be told what they want to hear. They want to be told what they need to hear. And so, those are little talk-offs, little things that I always say when I sat down with the seller. I always say, listen, is it okay with you guys? So we go through, hey, you guys want to do this by this time frame? Okay, looks like you go through all the the counseling interview with them just to make sure we're on the same page. And then I say, is it okay if I tell you guys what you need to hear and not what you want to hear? And they'll be like, well, yeah, absolutely. It just changes the dynamic. I just went from being a friend that I connected to and looked at the whole house with them, and they like me, hopefully, to now I'm in the driver's seat and I'm advising you like a doctor would be advising you if you were ill. And that's the position I always want to be in. But that's just a little talk track that I always used. And another thing we used to say was like, we're not going to be testing the marketing we use to sell your home. The marketing we use has been proven to sell thousands of homes. What we are going to be testing is the price of your home in today's current market. Does that make sense? Now I'm not getting a call back, 2 months in. Hey man, your marketing's not working. Hey, you need to change the picture of the living room, or, all this kind of stuff, right? Like the marketing we've done is proven to sell thousands of homes. So what we're testing is not the marketing that we do. We're going to be testing the price of the home in your current marketplace. And so what I'd like to do in this market, I would do this. What I'd like to do is I'd like to set up a call every 3 weeks where we review everything that sold, everything that went pending, everything that came on the market, so that we can see how we're positioned in the marketplace and if there's something we need to do different to attract the highest possible offer, so you guys can get moved to Tennessee and you can be fishing off the bank with your friend or whatever, right? Like tying everything back to their goals. So yeah, those are just some things that popped in my head. Based on the question.
Wow. I mean, goodness gracious, there's so much value, so many gold nuggets. I've got, page filling loads here, and I see folks that are on the chat as well, scribbling. So that's incredible. Just to recap some of that though, asking questions, right? The best salespeople ask the most questions, and more than that, they ask the best questions. You have to know the right questions to ask and let them talk. Someone will give you everything that you need to sell something to them. All you have to do is ask, right? So, and each question is unpeeling a layer. And then the question of all questions, I heard you throw out there as well. And it's so natural, and it's fun to watch you because it's so natural when you throw this stuff out. The if I would you. Right. Can you unpack how significant if I would you is in your sales process?
Yeah. So the if I would you, and I'm trying to think because I use this in more so today in working with agents and agent attraction, is if I was able to show you a way that if I was to send you a video that showed you exactly how we're going to help you sell this home and get you moved to Tennessee, would you be willing to watch it? That would be an example, right? So like, if I do something for you, would you do something for me? And it's just an easy little talk track to get people to say yes to something that you want them to do. Because I'm going to do this for you. If I was to send you a video that breaks down exactly what needs to happen for your home to sell in the next 2 weeks, would you at least watch that video? Yeah, we'd watch it. Okay, when would you watch it by? And they say, I'd watch it by Friday. Okay, well then, so if I called you on Saturday, you would for sure have watched it by then? Oh, okay, yes. Okay, now they just committed 3 times to watching the video I want them to see. Now, the video that we send out before every listing was a video that pre-sold them on our system for selling homes for up to 18% more, that whole thing that we created through NAEA. And so like, it does all the heavy lifting. In fact, it does the presentation better than I could do it, right? And it does it in a way that's shorter and more succinct and creates doubt around any other process you might use and this and the other. But like, it's important for them to watch that video because it's doing the positioning of me as the expert instead of me coming in being, look how great I am as an agent. Look at all my awards. That's what I used to do because I didn't know any better. But if you can have somebody else saying that you're great, the positioning, it's like a celebrity endorsement. It's the same reason that Geico and all these commercials today have celebrities in them. Not because that makes sure. Does it make any sense that because Tag Team did a commercial with Geico that their insurance is better than anybody else? No, makes no sense whatsoever. But when you understand that some people come to trust because it was relevant in terms of, Tag Team, that was funny, haha, now I remember Geico, and they decide to call Geico. It doesn't mean there's no reason that somebody should trust Geico because of Tag Team doing a commercial. But that's how people come to trust is celebrity endorsements. Something that's someone else saying you're great, testimonials. All of these things are way more powerful than you going in trying to sell yourself, and you're already devalued because you're the one that's telling them you're great. So like, you have to build some of these things into your overall process for how you meet with people and how you show up. And Dan Kennedy's my favorite example because the dude is just the best in the world at it. And he's everything he does is so intentional about who he is. Like if you ask anybody that's followed Dan Kennedy, like, tell me something you know about Dan Kennedy. He's grumpy. He makes people a lot of money, but he probably won't take you as a client because he really doesn't like people. He doesn't like social media. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have email. If you're lucky enough that he might actually even take your phone call, he's probably going to fire you anyways. And he charges a lot of money. Right. And so like all these things, like he's elusive, he's hard to get to. He's a difficult person, but it makes him interesting and it makes you want to hope, oh man, I hope he takes me as a client. And we paid him. You were going to ask this question. I'm going to precede the question you said earlier, because one of the, I paid Jay Abraham a ton of money, worth every penny. Paid Dan Kennedy even more, probably, actually more Jay Abraham, but a lot of money to Dan Kennedy. We did a day with Dan, which was like 34,000 or 38 grand. And it was just for like a day with him, which is like 6 hours or whatever. And I remember the process that we went through. They took half of our money up front before we even got on a call. And I was like, we were still hoping he was going to take us as a client. Like, he got paid before the work ever began, before he even got on a phone call, knew what the heck it is we wanted to talk about if we did a day with him. And we were still hoping he would take our money. Don't we wish that our real estate clients would think of us the same way? How do you position yourself in a way that you attract people to want to do business with you, and they just hope that you'll accept them as a client? That's what we really want to design our businesses around. And that's the things that I think about when I'm creating marketing and trying to position myself in a marketplace. Even before I go on a listing, before I meet with the buyer, how can we make you stand out and be, hope that people will, they hope that you would accept them as a client, right? Like, that's a different mentality of the way we think.
It absolutely is. And, you brought up Jay and Dan again. I'm not sure if you're a Frank Kern guy, but I love Frank as well. And a few others.
Kern's one of my homeboys. Yeah.
Yeah.
We flew with Frank Kern in his jet to San Diego when he lived in San Diego, and paid him $100,000 to do a partner deal. And we followed Frank for, we've been in his masterminds, all those guys, like, they're all, friends of ours now, but like, we paid them a lot of money and they helped us make a lot of money from what we've learned from them. But yeah, Frank's one of our top 3 gurus of all time for sure.
That's great. That's great. So give me the top 5, I guess, books that you've read or things that you've done that have really made an impact in your business.
Man. Ooh, okay. So it would be hard to do books because, man, the way I think about books is like, what problem are you trying to solve? Right. So There's so many good books, like, man, but there's certain seasons of life that I was in that one book was like so valuable to me. But it may not be the most relevant for maybe someone listening. And so I would say, man, the number one thing that I've ever done, if you were to like break down, like, what's the one behavior or habit that Jay has that really made him successful, is I always invested in myself and getting into the rooms where the people that were the smartest in the industry or smartest even outside the industry that I could learn from. And I paid whatever it took, and I paid a lot in a lot of cases, and a lot more than maybe you could easily see the return on investment right away. But that's always served me well for a couple of reasons. Number one is I was able to learn from the best of the best without without any missing pieces to it. I'm learning from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And then the relationships, when you make those investments, you get in those rooms, and the people that you meet that are also in those rooms are also, a part of, are going to be a part of what helps you get to where you're trying to go. And so being in the room, especially when you don't think you belong in the room, that's when you should be getting in those rooms. Being the smallest guy in the room is the best situation you can get yourself into. And don't feel like you don't deserve to be in there. Just make sure you go back and take action on what you learned, so you do deserve to be in there next time. And so I think that's probably principally one of the things that has allowed me to be successful. Is I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I always sit next to him.
That's wonderful. And then also you don't mind spending the money, right? To invest in yourself. That's the biggest investment that you can make. And that's where you'll see the most return out of 100%. Is once you're investing in yourself, you start seeing that. And depending on how large the investment is how hard is that really speaks to the application of it, right? And whether or not you're going to execute. Some people will shy away from a high price tag or, coaching, and we have success coaching now as well, which is going to be a huge thing. Had the opportunity. I'm going to have Mr. Robbins here as well, but it is something that you invest in that ultimately it's expensive, but you get the return out of it because it's expensive. You're like, hey, I'm not wasting this.
For sure. There's no question about that. And I'll add to that this. If you're not where you want to be in your life and your business and your finances, whatever it may be, it's simply something you haven't learned yet. That's it. Like everything is about who you have to become. That's it. Like there's nothing else. There's nothing happening to you. It's who do you have to become in order to have what it is that you want to have? And you do that by investing in yourself, investing in personal development, personal growth, not just business growth, but making those investments. That's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to earn what it is, who you have to become to be able to have what it is that you want. It doesn't happen for you without that investment.
That's exactly it. And I think it was Jim Rohn as well, right? That says
That's a Jim Rohn right there.
that is a Jim Rohn, right? Success is not something that you obtain or attain. Success is something you attract by the person that you become, right? It's the person that you are that attracts that thing to you. So as we head into this shift, and as the market is shifting kind of beneath our feet, that is the question is, who are we becoming? Who do we need to be in order to succeed in this new marketplace? The reason why you can be a miracle worker is when you're willing to use that one powerful phrase, which is until, right? I'll read enough books until I find the answer I'm looking for. I will, I won't sleep until I find the answer, right? And it's that until, that one little turn on phrase. I'll get in every room, I'll beg, I'll borrow, I'll do whatever I have to do until it works for me. So I think that's until I might get a big wall or something.
I like that word right there.
Yeah. So cool. Well, what do you foresee, Jay, as kind of the biggest challenge going into this new season of real estate that we're headed into?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is going to be getting buyers to accept the new normal in terms of interest rates, and getting sellers to accept the new normal in terms of pricing. It's going to be the hardest thing. It's one of the hardest things to. It's real hard to tell a seller what they need to price and position a home at when it's way different than what their expectation is, without losing a rapport and them kicking you out the door. It really is. There's a process to it. We've defined it and used it for years and years for how to do it the right way, where they discover on their own with you. I'm on your team here, not me saying, "Hey, oh, by the way, you think it's worth $350? It's actually only worth $275. Are you ready to list it today?" That does not go very well. So there is a better process for how to help them discover what's going on in the marketplace, and that's going to be learning that skill is going to be extremely important, because you're going to lose that, if you were able to just break through to them in a different way for them to see it, because it is best for them to do this. Ultimately, you're advising them based on what's their best interest, not yours. So if it is best for them to sell now and not later, if we think the market's not going to continue to go, if we think the market's continue to fall for a little while, which I don't have a crystal ball, nobody does, but if that's what the data shows, then maybe you need to communicate that and give them the best advice you can. And you need to deliver that information in a way that they are willing to accept it, not in a way that they are shocked and upset and pissed, and now they want to list it with the agent that told them the ridiculous price that it's not going to sell out. I think that's going to be the hardest thing that agents have to adapt to, is how to get people past this mental, this mental shift that, hey, you could have bought $1 million house in, December of last year, but here we are in October, and you can buy a $600,000 house. Time's going to have to pass for people to accept that new normal. And people have to, accept the fact that, you're not married to the rate, you're dating the rate, and that you can always refinance in the future when things change. But, now, until prices do come down, you're getting less home for your money. And so that's going to be, I think, the biggest challenge that people have to warm up to that. You're hopeful, right? People use hope as a strategy, and man, I hope it's just still worth what I thought it was worth. No, it's not. It's not going to be. And so I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly it happened, right? And sellers and buyers, I guess, as well. Unless they were watching it, right, and kind of seeing how quickly it was happening, they're still operating under the same presumptions that they had 6 months ago, which is that it's a completely different market than it was 6 months ago, and heck, even like 6 weeks ago in some cases.
Exactly.
It's a whole different market. So I think that's spot on, and I expect to see that same kind of narrative. I think having those tough conversations is important, and going back to some of your scripts and some of the things that you mentioned, asking for permission, right? So it's something that I used to do as well when I was back in production, is I would sit on the same side of the table at the listing appointment, right? So at the listing appointment, I'm going to sit on the same side of the table as you, because this is us versus them. This is us versus the whole world. This is how we're going to achieve our goals, which is to sell your house, right? So, and
dude, man, we've been through some of the same training, no question.
That's right. I'm
not surprised.
That's right. So, and To that point, though, I think that one of the questions that some agents will have, and I think you've spoken to a little bit, but asking for that permission and saying, "Can I tell you the truth?" Right, and by asking that, they're giving you the permission to go ahead and lay it on them straight. And even if you don't get that listing, right? Sometimes, and I mentioned this the other day, second mouse gets the cheese. Sometimes, right?
So sometimes the third mouse, yeah,
right,
depends
exactly.
on how hard-headed they are. Yep,
right.
Many times, man. I love that point. You want to give them, you want to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And if they decide to go in a different direction and it doesn't work, they will come back to you and thank you for doing that and say, and I had that happen so many times. I mean, I knew it, I hated it. I hated not winning, but I knew I did what was right. And, and it always works itself out. You always got to do the right thing.
Yeah. So what do you say to those sellers, or what can agents say when that seller, has such a high expectation? And I think you're right. I think that's going to be one of the biggest skill sets and tools to have in this new market is realigning expectations, both of the buyers and sellers. But let's start with sellers. How do you realign?
I'm going to try to do this quick because I got to jump here in 10 minutes.
Yes, I know we're almost out of time. But
so I'm going to give you the nugget for this. So one of the things we ask in the buyer counseling interview is, what do you think your home is worth? And they always say this one thing. They always say, well, we were kind of hoping you could tell us, Jay. And so we use again, Tony Robbinsism. This is I forget the term for it now, but a reframe. Okay. So it's a reframe. I say, well, if you had to guess, what would you guess? And then they say, well, we don't really know, Jay. We were kind of, we don't really know. I say, well, if you had to pick a number out of the sky, what would you say? And they'll tell you a number. And they're like 385,000, right? Or whatever. And so I need to know that, okay? Because when I'm going to sit down with them and we're going to go over the broad 1,000-foot view of the marketplace, not the neighborhood view, the broad spectrum of the marketplace, I'm going to pull up, even if 385 is unreasonable and I know it's worth maybe 295. Let's say it's worth 295. I'm going to pull up 250 to say 450. And I'm going to say, here's how many homes are actively on the market. Here's how many sold the last 6 months. Here's the absorption of homes. Here's how many months worth of inventory. And I'm gonna say, based on that, and his, if I do that and the inventory is higher than, and let's say you guys want to be sold in 90 days, there's, let's say there's 100 homes on the market, only 10 months a home have been selling on average. So there's 30 homes going to sell. There's 30 homes going to sell. 70 homes aren't going to sell. So what do you think we need to do? What do you think we need to do to be one of the 30 homes that sells and not one of the 70 that doesn't sell? If I had gone in and I showed them a price range that didn't include their ridiculous 385, I've watched it happen right in front of me. After I just built rapport with both parties and connected and became their best friends, they get mad. Like they sit back in their seat and they look at me different. Like, I don't like this guy no more. Like you lose everything that you got. You'll lose the appointment because of the way that information gets conveyed. So even though that might not be the relevant data to talk about at the time, it's the relevant data to get them to understand that the marketplace is what the marketplace is. And usually from 295 to, say 450, whatever it is probably somewhat similar. And we'll get into the deep end of that once they decide to hire me. Right. But I'm going to at least get them to understand, well, we probably need to make sure we were priced right. But even if you ask the question and they don't answer it, they answered it in their head because that's what your brain does. We're going to have to fix the fence. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to paint. Whatever the things is they were hoping that they weren't going to have to do, they're now starting to understand. I'm probably going to have to do those things if we're going to make sure that it's sold in the time frame we want to be sold in. And so that is the process that we use to do that so that I don't break rapport with them and they don't see me as the enemy, right? And so then, you still get to the point, where you talk about pricing, which I highly recommend you never talk about price until they've hired you because of the system that you have to sell their home. Then we can talk about price and positioning. I don't know if you're going to be willing to paint the neon green rooms. I don't know if you're going to be willing to replace the deck that's fallen apart that needs to be replaced. I don't know if you're going to be willing to put, granite countertops to be competing with other homes in the neighborhood. Like, I don't know which of those investments make sense or which ones I'm going to advise to you to do, staging professionally or not. All of these things that I can't price the home until I know the answers to these questions. So we're going to determine price based upon how we get to the end zone of here's what I suggest and here's the things I think we should do. And then based on that, what are you willing to do? And then, okay, now let's look at maybe where we need to price and position the home in the marketplace to be one of those 30 homes that sell and not one of the 70 that don't sell. And then we dig into price. And so, that's the process that I use to get past that. because I've lost more listings than most agents will ever take. So, to be fair, I've lost a lot of listings, and I would go back and I would look at process and be like, all right, well, here's why I lost that. And then I would try to figure out a way to not lose again that way.
That's incredible. That's absolute. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, man.
Can I recap that last one? Because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I've been on these listing consults as well. And, you sit across from them and, they'll throw this kind of pie in the sky number out there. And I entered a listing agreement from a perspective of, I've already got this listing, right? So as soon as you picked up the phone and called me, right, you've agreed to list the house with me. So now we're just going to talk about how much you can sell it for. And when we talk about that, it's 100% dependent on you, because I'm going to tell you, hey, look, you want to sell this place for 800,000? Great. We're going to need to knock it down. We're going to need to,
build another house. Yeah.
We're going to need to build another house. We're going to need gold beams. We're going to need, a platinum staircase and all this stuff. So, and to your point, I don't know what you're willing to do, but that's what it's going to take in order for me to sell your house for 800,000. So I think that framing and that mindset of going into it is so key, so critical. So thank you so much for dropping those gems, those nuggets. And thank you for your incredible
thanks generosity. For the invite. I appreciate it, man. Love what you're doing, man. Appreciate you very much. If there's anything else I can ever do for you, let me know.
Absolutely. Love you to death. Thank you so much, Jay. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all.
Yep.
That's it for today. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share. We're on YouTube Live. Link us up, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, y'all.
Let's go.